Coming up, the Flagstaff City Council shows their support for acknowledging indigenous lands. Plus, meet a local hero who's helping keep food on the community's plate. The news starts now.
You're watching NAZ Today, Northern Arizona's local news.
Good evening and welcome to NAZ Today. I'm Christian Ayala.
And I'm Lacey Fraun. Thanks for tuning in.
Since the beginning of July, the Flagstaff Indigenous Commissions has been pushing for the city to acknowledge or officially recognize that the city sits on land sacred to the culture of indigenous tribes. The acknowledgement appears to be likely as City Council members in Flagstaff unanimously give strong support for the proposal.
Within the city, there's been a lot of engagement with our city manager, Rose Tohi, our coordinator for Indigenous Initiatives, obviously the commission, as I mentioned, and then other, leadership at the city like our attorneys and just a handful of other folks who have really kind of put time into making sure that this is done right for the city of Flagstaff.
The acknowledgement also serves as a way for the City Council to give respect to the indigenous people's beliefs and values, but also gives Native Americans a voice in the city government.
It's about acknowledging that historic trauma that was caused by colonialism. And to go further, having this land acknowledgement in a real public space helps also to help our indigenous relatives in this area to realize that there are people who do care.
There's some 13 tribes in the region that call this place sacred. And for too long, we as white people have been in positions of power and have not recognized the people that have come here before us who still call this place home, but maybe aren't in those same positions of power at the local level.
There have been setbacks along the road to agreement on this plan. Some city officials worried of whether or not the acknowledgement would be inclusive to all tribes throughout the region.
Too often, one tribe over another gets the control or takes the lead, and it's just really important to me that we do our best to be welcoming of all the tribals' opinions and beliefs, and I think that we did a pretty good job with this one.
With the acknowledgement now adopted by the City Council, it's scheduled for final approval at tonight's meeting.
This helps to help that deeper understanding and it steps towards what we call reconciliation and conciliation.
The Arizona Supreme Court ruled today that the Republican-controlled legislature acted unconstitutionally when it approved a bill prohibiting schools from requiring students to wear masks. In other words, the court ruled the state cannot prevent schools from imposing mask mandates. The court unanimously agreed with a lower court ruling that said the ban on mask mandates did not belong in an unrelated budget bill. The ban was added to the budget bill at the last minute, but never took effect because a county judge prevented it from becoming a law back in September.
Parking restrictions are now in place as winter months approach closer and closer. Parking in the city streets or alleyways between midnight and 7 a.m. is now banned and could result in a ticket or even towing. Parking restrictions will be enforced whether it is snowing or not and will stay in effect until April 1st.
You can expect more driving delays on parts of Butler Avenue and Beaver Street for the next several months because of new separated bike lanes. The city will be trying out a new snow removal process that will allow bike lanes to stay open but could slow down other traffic. Instead of moving snow to the other sides of the streets, snowplows will move it to the center, as this diagram shows. The problem is that some of the snow may spill into traffic lanes. Public Works Director Scott Overton said there may be some bugs to work out.
I think we're committed to giving this an effort, but our system generally is primarily set up for automobile traffic. We have 30,000 cars a day that come down Butler, and I think it is fair to say that my priority one service in that location is priority one service because I've got to move 30,000 cars through a corridor as safely as possible. And it's not at the expense of a bicycle commuter, it's just simply sheer volume.
Overton says the new system will be a trial and error process. But for now, the city hopes to keep both the bike lanes and the traffic lanes safe and clear of snow.
Flagstaff Police says the investigation is continuing into the death of an 18-year-old man who was hit by a car over the weekend. The man has been identified as Ethan Kronz, who died after being rushed to Flagstaff Medical Center. Police say the accident occurred around 5 a.m. on Saturday near the West Route 66 and South Milton Road. So far, it's still unknown if criminal charges will be pressed against the driver, who did speak with police. Officers are asking anyone for any more information about the accident to call Flagstaff Police.
The decade anniversary of a local children's book is being celebrated in a unique way. NAZ Today's Caitlin Seats has the story.
An NAU English professor is celebrating the 10th anniversary of her children's book in an unusual way. Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match, also known as Marisol McDonald No Combina, is a children's book by local author and English professor Monica Brown. It tells the story of a little girl as she discovers her ethnicity. To mark the 10th anniversary, you can now read the book on the new storybook path at the Sawmill County Park.
In the character of Marisol McDonald, I wanted to create a whole complex multicultural family that included a little girl who people tried to put in a box, and she didn't want to be there. She had to create a unique outlook, sometimes hanging upside down from trees, and she wanted to be herself. So Marisol McDonald is a nonconformist. She's creative, unique, and I think this book affirms those qualities for children.
Brown says the book is intended to connect with readers who might feel like Marisol McDonald, people who fear they too don't match or fit in. Brown's message is that everybody is unique and special in their own way. Brown is a strong advocate for the Latinx community, and her writing reflects that. To honor the anniversary, the city of Flagstaff built a unique storybook path in the Sawmill Park, featuring pages from Dr. Brown's book on pedestals along the way.
Realm of like 3 or 4 years ago, a Parks and Recreation staff member had heard about this idea of storybook path, the idea of putting the books of pages along a path in a park, and then people could go and read the book as they walk around the park.
The city partnered with the Literacy Center in Flagstaff on the project, which features the book in English and Spanish. Dr. Brown is now working on her 30th book, and her advice to new writers is to keep going and not give up.
The late, great Toni Morrison said that if there's a book you want to read that doesn't exist, you should write it yourself.
Caitlin Seats, NAZ Today.
The Forest Service will be performing 2 groups of prescribed burns tomorrow and Thursday around Lava River Cave. The project will span within 500 acres when finished. The Horseshoe Wild Bill project is a part of a Forest Service's plan to mitigate fire risks in northern Arizona and improve the overall health.
And they're going to burn it in 2 blocks, which means they're going to take 1 block worth of 250 odd acres on Wednesday, and then they do the same on Thursday. So that's going to be the prescribed burn smoke that you're going to see probably mostly in the Flagstaff area.
Smith says the burns will cause smoke near Belmont Parks, Camp Navajo, and the I-40 on Wednesday and Highway 180 on Thursday due to changes in the wind. Now that fire risk is high in recent years, Smith says prescribed burns are not only necessary, but something that residents need to get used to moving forward.
Well, every week we feature a local everyday hero, someone who quietly makes a difference without worrying about who gets the credit.
And not every hero is a police officer or firefighter. This week's everyday hero helps feed the hungry. NAZ Today's Tori Smith has the story.
This week's feature is a little different than our normal everyday hero. Meet J.B. Dewitt from the Flagstaff Family Food Center. Dewitt says it has always been his dream to help those in need.
When people come and they feel apologetic, I give it right back to them. I tell them, thank you for coming. You're helping us fulfill our purpose. And looking them in the eye and letting them see the look on my face that I'm being serious and genuine, you can tell that right away they understand that they're not a burden and that they don't have to apologize.
But every nonprofit job takes a toll. Seeing people in need can be emotional, and it takes a special person to do the job day after day.
I spent 12 years in the medical field before I went to college, and that really prepared me for how to cope with helping people in need.
The food center estimates it will give out 7 million pounds of food this year, nearly twice the normal amount. Dewitt says one of the best parts of his job is the feeling of making a difference.
When somebody knocks on the door and they've overcome that stigma of having to apologize to ask for food. So somebody will knock, and they might have driven 2.5 hours to get here, and they didn't get here in time. We've already closed for the day, but they knock anyway, and they say, I drove 2.5 hours. Is there anything you can do? I'm sorry that I was late, but can you help? And I get to turn around and give them a giant box of food and say, I completely get it, and please don't apologize.
And that's why JB Dewitt is this week's Everyday Hero. By the way, JB Dewitt is an alumnus of NAZ Today, having worked here a decade ago. If you or anyone you know wants to help make a difference by donating or volunteering, or if you are in need of food, stop in or call the Flagstaff Family Food Center. Tori Smith, NAZ Today.
Coming up, final COVID vaccine preparations are underway for kids. Stay tuned.
With the holidays seeming to be right around the corner, we are still experiencing warm temperatures here in Flagstaff. But why is that? I'll have more, so stick around after the break. Stay with us.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
we discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool. Oh, yeah. Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but things changed. Teaching didn't seem that cool anymore. So you decided to become something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Amazing things are happening in teaching, so it's time to put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Welcome back. The CDC is recommending COVID-19 vaccines for kids ages 5 to 11.
And a waiting game for the CDC's director to sign off the recommendation. Shots could be available as soon as this week.
It's a moment many parents and pediatricians have been waiting for.
It's very, very vital that children get vaccinated against COVID so that we can put this pandemic, fortunately, behind us.
This COVID-19 vaccine, formulated for around 28 million U.S. kids ages 5 to 11, is already being shipped out.
We began the process of moving 15 million doses from Pfizer's freezers and facilities to distribution centers. There, millions of doses are being packed with dry ice and tracking labels before they're loaded into small, specialized shipping containers.
The FDA's emergency use authorization issued Friday for Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in younger children allowed that to happen. But even before the authorization, top U.S. health officials were preparing.
We asked states, pharmacies, and community health centers to place their initial orders and submit their detailed distribution plans.
The orange label indicates it's a dose for kids ages 5 to 11, only a third of what's given to those 12 and older. The doses are being placed in trucks and airplanes and sent to more than 20,000 locations.
Over the next couple of days, several million doses will start arriving at local pediatricians and family doctors' offices, pharmacies, children's hospitals, community health centers, rural health clinics, and other locations.
And the White House says more doses will be packed and delivered each day over the next week as more sites come online and the U.S. puts a focus on protecting younger children. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
every day across America. Excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
How prepared is your family if a wildfire shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or an earthquake? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to Ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes.
Make a plan today.
Hi, Meals on Wheels. I'm Marco. I'm a college student and I volunteer as a driver for Meals on Wheels. I think it's awesome meeting these people. I mean, they're so interesting. They've had so many wonderful experiences in life. Your community helps to raise you up into the person that you become. Meals on Wheels is a great way to give back to that community.
Welcome back to NAZ Today. I'm your Tuesday night student forecaster, Tori Smith, here to bring you why it is so hot here in Flagstaff today. But before we go into that, we are going to take a look at our satellite image. Our coastal satellite right now, we're seeing those winds pushing through California, into Nevada, and eventually into Arizona right over here. And taking a closer look at those cloud coverages in Arizona, we are going to be seeing right over here in Flagstaff the majority of the clouds. But what is this? This is actually our radar system. So looking at the blues and greens, we are seeing no storms currently. If we see those reds, that is when we are expecting more extreme weather. But for that, we are looking pretty decent with those clear skies right now. So Flagstaff currently, we are seeing a temperature of 52 degrees, even though it feels a lot warmer than that right now. I personally think it feels like it's in the 60s. And that is slightly because of that southwest winds of 6 miles per hour. We're not feeling that wind chill as much right now. Looking at our barometric pressure right now, it is at 30.28, so that is the cause for our clear skies right now. Pretty interesting. If we have the higher barometric pressure, that means that we have clear skies. Lower means a storm is moving in. And moving on, looking at our high for today, a high of 64 degrees. Low tonight going to be around 31, pretty chilly out. So if you are going out, it is below freezing. I would definitely bring a jacket if I were you. Average, we are a little bit above that, and thankfully nowhere near those records. Looking at the high temperatures across the state for today, we saw pretty warm temperatures all over. 78 over in Las Vegas, 73 degrees in Prescott, and 84 degrees over in Phoenix. So you guys are finally in those fall time temperatures, looking nice down there. Tonight, forecast low, going to be around 31 degrees, mostly clear, and a 5% moon. Be absolutely beautiful tonight. We are seeing that waning crescent. So tomorrow we are going to be seeing a new moon. Super exciting and mostly clear, so definitely go out and check that out. But as we move into tomorrow, we are going to be seeing a forecast high of 61 degrees, pretty warm, and that is the start of our warming trend here in Flagstaff. As we look at the high temperatures and the lows across the state for tomorrow, we are going to be seeing that brief start of that warm front. So 78 over in Phoenix, 70 in Prescott, 84 in Lake Havasu, and Payson over at 72. So as I mentioned before, this is the start of our warming trend, and it is going to last until Saturday here in Flagstaff, and most of northern Arizona will see this until Saturday as well. So 60 on Wednesday, going to 66 is the peak of the warming trend on Friday, ending the warming trend on 65 on Saturday, and then finally we will start to be seeing those fall time temperatures moving into those winter time temperatures, going down to 64 on Sunday. That is all we have for weather, but stay tuned for sports after the break. Stay with us.
You think getting dunked by text is harsh? Try getting dunked by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills. like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with autism. That's a 1,000% increase in the last 40 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Welcome back to NAZ Today. I'm your sports reporter, Kristen Chancellor. Let's get into things. The Northern Arizona University soccer team has always looked for local talent to fill their roster. Bringing in players from around Flagstaff brings a unique engagement within the community. Currently on the NAU roster sits 2 local players from Flagstaff High School who have grown up in the community and decided to stay in the town they love. I caught up with both of these players to hear about their passion for their hometown. Growing up in a small community like Flagstaff, you learn to have a special appreciation for the town you've always known. For NAU soccer players sophomore middle Maddie Schaefer and junior defense Taylor Hazlett, who both grew up in Flagstaff attending Flagstaff High School to play soccer. This bond is one they know very well.
I mean, Flagstaff is my hometown and NAU was a big decision to make. Also, I didn't really want to leave home and I went to camps here and I really just loved it, and so I wanted to stay in my hometown and make my hometown proud.
NAU soccer coach Kylie Lau says recruiting local players is a win for both the Lumberjacks and the local community.
I think both Maddie and Taylor Hazlett have a great community support, so of course now we're going to get even more supporters from Flagstaff. We just get natural fans as well as getting as many people as we can out from Flagstaff specifically.
Coming to NAU allowed Hazlett and Schaefer the opportunity to continue building a bond that started in the youth levels and continued through their time as Flagstaff High varsity players.
Maddie and I were like, honestly, like the team. Like we built a team and we really worked together, and we still do that to this day. Like when I get to play with Maddie, it's like amazing because it's back to our old days.
Growing up in a small town, there were some struggles, however, with living in a town with limited club availability. It creates problems with playing with the same players consistently while growing up. However, it also has a perk of playing with your best friend.
It's kind of a thing where you know absolutely everybody all the time because it is such a small town. So for me, I've always grown up playing with the same players. Taylor Hazlett and I, another teammate of mine, we've played together since we were at least 4 years old. So it was always really cool growing up knowing the same group of people and being able to kind of grow up with my best friends. So it was always really fun. It was just you don't really get to meet anyone else new.
Hazlett graduated from Flag High in 2019, coming straight to NAU while Schaefer transferred down to the Valley her senior year of high school before coming to NAU. As these two and many others have helped pave the way for local talent, the NAU Lumberjacks will continue to look for local talent for their next big stars. NAU will look to take on Sacramento State November 3rd in the Big Sky Tournament. The Lumberjacks were able to clinch the 3rd seed with the record of 8-10 after beginning their season struggling to win games. However, the Lumberjacks were able to recover their season and adjust the mindset, making their way into the Big Sky Tournament. We will continue to watch as the Lumberjacks battle on the field for the trophy. The NAU basketball teams are geared up and ready to start their seasons. The NAU men's basketball team begins play November 9th in Tucson against Arizona. This men's team finished last season with a record of 6-16, falling short in gameplay and struggling to have any momentum to win games. The Lumberjacks will look to redeem themselves this season and make their way to the championship with new talent and a fresh mindset to take on the season. The Lumberjack women's team starts their season November 12th against Washington State in Washington. This women's team had a record of 15-14 last season, and while it was a winning record, it was only good enough to have them ranked 7th. The Lumberjacks are ready to take the court with hopes of pushing past their downfalls and making their way to the hoop for a successful season. We'll be eager to see what this team can do this season. For the Lumberjacks, that's all we have for sports. Stay tuned for a weather recap after the break.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Welcome back. We are going to take one last look at weather. So we are expecting a warming trend this week starting Wednesday and going to end on Saturday. Peak going to be 66 degrees, but here is your outlook for the week. That is all we have for weather. Back to you on desk.
Thank you, Tori. With Halloween wrapped up, the month of turkey has finally arrived.
Make some room, Lacey, though, because November also kicks off Native American Heritage Month. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush designated November as a month to recognize the sacrifices, contributions, and achievements of Native American people. Since then, millions throughout the country have also decided to recognize the cultural roots that the Native Americans have left behind in the past. You can also to honor Native Americans this month, you can visit one of the many reservations or a museum. You can also support Native-owned businesses and charities. That's all we have for tonight. If you'd like to see more of our content, feel free to visit our Twitter page or our YouTube channel at NAZ Today.
Well, Christian, I'm so excited for this upcoming month. We're going to be putting out a lot of stories and events for Native American Heritage Month.
That is all we have for today. Thank you so much.